Hey guys, it's Erica and welcome back to my channel. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure to hit that red subscribe button and hit the bell to be notified every time that I upload. So today I am back with a long-awaited video. I'm doing kind of a little bit of a Q&A with you guys, as well as kind of giving you guys some information on my 2-year update as a sonographer or ultrasound tech. I have been working at a hospital as a sonographer or ultrasound tech for the past 2 years, and I wanted to give you guys my experience. So this is kind of a harder video to make because there's so many different directions I could go in. So I kind of made a few notes over here to the side on some topics that I'm going to kind of just talk about briefly, and then you guys sent me about 23 or so questions on my community page on YouTube. I did this a lot, but yes, my community page on YouTube, I asked you guys to let me know if you had any questions about being an ultrasound tech after 2 years, and you guys sent me about 23 questions, so I have a lot of questions to answer. So let's hop right into it. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about briefly is the opportunities for growth. I think ultrasound, as well as nursing and a lot of different ones, have a great opportunity for growth as far as like you could be a traveler and you can travel to different states and do ultrasound contracts for like 13 weeks here, 13 weeks there. I had a coworker who went to Cali and now she is in Hawaii and she's really enjoying that. She's single, no kids, enjoying her life. You can also become a contractor, which of course she wouldn't have any benefits, but you could contract at a certain place and just do that for your own hourly price or your own price per patient. I've seen people ask for as high as sometimes it's 40 to 60 bucks per patient, which really does add up. 10 patients in a day, and that can be extremely lucrative for you and your family. And with that type of money, you'd be able to afford your own health insurance and things like that, especially if you're married and you can keep that money for yourself and just pay the taxes on it, and you have health insurance through your husband. That's also an amazing thing to do. So I think it's pretty nice as far as job opportunities go and your ability to work in an outpatient facility, having like no nights, no weekends, no call. You can work in a hospital. You can work in an OB office. It's just a lot of different places that you can work. You can also possibly work in surgery and things like that. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is pay. So a lot of people ask me how much I make as a sonographer, or ultrasonographer, ultrasound tech, whatever it might be. And I never really tell them. I always try to give them a decent range because it's not beneficial for me to tell you, because literally I work in a hospital where all of us make a different hourly pay and we're all in the same hospital. So it's really hard to tell someone how much they can expect to make as an ultrasound tech. Of course, I've been doing this for 2 years, so I've gotten a pay increase 2 times. That means I make more than the other people at my job, and then there are people above me that make more than me. So, you know, it's like blah, 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 blah. It's up and down. And then I've seen some people say that they made 40 an hour or 60 an hour. I've seen some people go way beyond 100K down in Atlanta, and just like so many different things. I've heard someone say that their starting pay was $50 like off somewhere, I don't really know, it was in another state. So like the pay, it can be very good and it can be very lucrative. It can be amazing and definitely a big help for your household and for so many different things. So I think pay as an ultrasound tech is awesome, but you never know where it's going to start and where it's going to finish. It all depends on the city you live in, the hospital. If you're working for someone who pays their employees, like say if you're a contractor, you're going to be paid different. You might be paid a little bit more than someone who works hourly because you're getting all your money and no benefits. You might make less because you're getting benefits. You see what I'm saying? Like there's so many different variables, but for the most part, pay as an ultrasound tech is great, and it's definitely one that you can live on and take care of your family on. A question I get a lot is this job good for someone who is introverted or someone who has anxiety? And I've been known to have generalized anxiety or just struggling with things like that. And I believe this is a good job for someone like that, just for the fact that you are working one-on-one with your patient. It's kind of just you and them in a dark room, or like with your curtain or whatever. You don't have to interact with a lot of people very often. I of course encourage you to get out of your shell and interact and talk to the nurses and things like that. But just getting in there and struggling with that type of thing, then no, this is a great job for that. And yeah. Scheduling. So scheduling is awesome to me because I feel like there are a lot of opportunities. Like I told you guys, no nights, weekends, or on call if you work in an outpatient facility. The ability to work overnight or half a day or be PRN, which is part-time. You have a lot of opportunities to find a schedule that works well with you and your family. So another thing that I learned is that you are probably going to discover your modality, the thing that you absolutely love to do, the thing that runs fire through your veins that makes you so happy, and mine is OB. So when I first started, I would scan everything, love to scan everything, love what a patient printed off, and as the year would go on, I would start to be annoyed when things printed off that were not OB related. Like I would get a carotid print off and I'd be like, oh my God, 2 more hours, I want to go home. And then I would get an OB and I would just feel revitalized and just energized, and I would go do the OB, we'd have a great time, and then I would be like ready for the rest of my night. So OB became my modality. It's something that I love to do, and I'm registered in OB, so that kind of works out. I have a friend who ended up loving vascular. I hate vascular. I'm decently good at it. Like I can scan really fast with vascular, but I'm just not interested. She loves vascular and doesn't really like OB. So you're gonna find out what your niche is, your thing, the thing that just lights you on fire, and mine is OB. So the last thing I'm going to tell you about before I hop into these questions is the most rewarding part of my job. So the most rewarding part of my job is when patients remember me. It is the best feeling ever. I had one the other night who literally remembered how I wore my hair. Like, I remember seeing you, I was pregnant, I saw you, and I was like, it was probably me. And she's like, well, you had your hair different. It was braided to the side. It was your natural hair, and da 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 da. And I was like, what? Like, she really remembered me, and she was telling me her baby's name and how we talked about it. And like, she really remembered our interaction, and it was awesome. It was a great feeling that the time with me was memorable enough to remember like months down the line or a year down the line, and I remember the baby's name, and like we were just able to talk about it. And I think that is the most rewarding part of my job, is being able to connect with my patients, especially my OB patients, on another level, and for them to come back at a new pregnancy or this pregnancy way down the line and remember me and remember our interaction. It was awesome. So let's hop into the questions. Pros and cons of being a sonographer, radiography versus sonography. That is an awesome question. So some of the pros of being a sonographer, I kind of mentioned earlier, is being able to have patients remember you, especially if you're an OB sonographer and you see the same patient a lot of different times. Making those social interactions with your patients is a pro for me. Some cons would be a little bit of wrist pain. If you're like scanning all night, it could be a little bit, a lot of tension on your wrist and on your shoulder, especially if you're working a lot in the ICU and you have to reach over beds and things like that. It can be a little bit stressful to your shoulders and your wrist. I can't really think of a lot of cons, honestly. If you work at a hospital that has you do call a lot, that can be a con. Working a lot of overtime or crazy hours could be a con if you work at a place that's understaffed or that's very busy. Some of the pros I already mentioned is building those connections with your patients. Another pro is the hours, the pay, the job itself, being able to explore different modalities and different things. Those are all pros for me. So as far as radiography versus sonography, I've already answered this a lot of times, and I always choose sonography just for the fact that I love being more in depth with patient care. Not patient care, but with the diagnostics of the patient. So usually for x-ray, you get everything that you need in the light, you take the picture, bada bing, send it off to the radiologist, he reads it, and like that's it. But for us, it's more like I have to say I see a blood clot, or I have to say I see a tumor and this is the texture and this, that, and the other. I'm more involved in diagnosing the patient, and I find that really cool. Do you prefer radiology or sonography? And also, do you ever get sore from repetitive movements? So yes, I just answered this. I prefer sonography more. And yes, you do get sore from repetitive movements. A lot of times, like I said, in the ICU or when you have a larger patient, it can be a little bit more stressful to your arm, your shoulder, and your wrist. How would a person know if this profession is for them? I remember you said in a previous video that you always knew you wanted to do this. What advice would you give someone who doesn't really know if this is for them? That is an awesome question. So honestly, I don't know if I guess God led me to this job. I've always just been interested in ultrasound, and just being able to look at the screen and understand what's going on has always been interesting to me. Even prior to having Kaiden, I had an ultrasound maybe one time, maybe twice. Like, I really haven't had many ultrasounds. I think I had 2 ultrasounds when I was younger, and I've just always been interested in it. It's really hard. I think one thing that I do notice, especially I mentioned how I love OB, is what makes you light up, makes you interested in it. And if you're like watching a show with ultrasound and you start to take interest in it, or if you're in the hospital and you see it, you start to take interest in it, these are things to look at. I would watch shows, I would try to shadow if I can, I would look online on YouTube, on just different websites and things, and just get a look at it and see if something lights up in you. And like, you just start to feel like you want to do this. It's a hard question to answer, but all I can say is kind of just follow your gut, follow your intuition, follow what God's telling you, kind of, yeah. That's a hard one to answer. What are some differences working as a sonographer in a hospital versus outpatient clinic? So I work in a hospital, but I have done some outpatient clinic work when I was a student. Actually, as an X-ray student, I worked outpatient ultrasound as a modality to shadow. So the differences, like I mentioned before, is the fact that usually outpatient clinics don't have nights, weekends, or on call or holidays. You get a lot more time off. Usually you work all day from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, 8 to 3, whatever your hours might be. Don't usually have much night shift there because usually a lot of offices close around 5. Hospitals, night shift, overnight, on call, all these different things. So that's a big difference. Another thing is the emergencies, the ERs coming in that you're probably not going to get at outpatient clinic because most of those people have appointments. So that's going to be something different. Being able to, usually hospitals do all three. So outpatient, inpatient, and ER. So you have a lot more, a multitude of patients coming from 3 different areas, which you're not going to get at an outpatient place. So there are just a little bit of differences. Was it hard to find a job? What was your interview process like? It was not hard to find a job for me. God worked it out to where I literally, like when I was ending my clinic, when I was ending being a student, 2 girls were leaving. So it was actually perfect. My supervisor was gonna be retiring in a few months. The director was supposed to be retiring in a few months. We had a girl who, like I told you guys, went off to California and then to Hawaii. She was going off to start traveling. Another girl in her family, she decided to take a travel job in like Tennessee or Nashville or something. So a lot of positions opened up and I had my pick and choose of what position that I wanted. It really worked out. I was really blessed to have that. My interview process was very simple. I interviewed with my supervisor and the director before they left. And yeah, it was awesome. I just kind of walked into this position. What's the most stressful thing about your job and what is your favorite thing about your job? The most stressful thing about my job is doing exams that I don't really care to do because like I told you guys, I've been really into OB lately. So my favorite thing about the job, I told you, is being able to connect with my OB patients and then remembering me and just having that moment with them is very special to me. And then when other things print off, that's the most stressful part of my job, is when like a carotid prints off or a venous leg prints off or a gallbladder and you're kind of like, nah, like you don't really care to do it because you really want to do OB or do GYN, like you like that type of stuff. So when stuff prints off that I'm not really fond of, it can be a little bit stressful. I'm not really someone who gets stressed out by having a lot of patients. I thrive on that. Like that excites me. I get excited when we have traumas and cool things happen and so many people come in, you have to get them done. That excites me. So that doesn't stress me out. But yeah, just being like, man, I'm gonna be here for 12 more hours and like, this is the only thing that printed off. Like that right there. That's the part I hate. And the part that I love is revisiting and seeing old patients. So yeah. What was the hardest part of school? I interviewed Friday to see if I can get into ultrasound school. Well, congratulations. The hardest part about school was just doing it, honestly, because I noticed that I do so much better in a classroom than online. I did a video telling you guys my tips on online school and I'll put that in the link up there, but I know that I do better in the classroom because online you have so much opportunity to not do your work, to do it at the last minute and things like that. So I didn't do my best like studying and things like that because I knew it was gonna be online and like, you know, I just wasn't motivated enough because it was online. So that was probably the most difficult part for me. I think I would have been a little bit different if I was in class all the time. How do you balance your home, motherhood, and career? Is it a good field to go in if you're a single parent? I'm a single mother thinking about going back to school for this. I think it is an awesome career for a single parent because I am a single parent. But how do I balance it? Kaiden does stuff and like while he's doing stuff, I do stuff. Like that's literally how I do it. Like say he is playing with his train set or he is watching a show, looking at a book while I have my laptop out and I'm studying, I'm doing work, I'm doing other stuff. I'm also in college right now, so while he's playing, I'm usually studying or doing something else. I really just try to do things while he's occupied with other things, so it's not, I don't want it to be like a sit over here, Kaiden, mommy has to do her work. More like Kaiden's already playing, so I might as well get my work done. So I do that. What is your salary and do you have student debt? So I talked about this earlier about not giving my salary just because it's not a good reference point. And yes, I do have student debt. I have taken out loans and grants and things like that. What's your opinion on working in the hospital or a private practice? Pros and cons, money better one over the other. Is there a pension at the hospital? So we do get a 401k if that's what you're talking about. As far as the pros and cons, I talked about that a little bit earlier. No nights, weekends, holidays, on call, things like that you wouldn't have at a private practice or an outpatient facility that you would have at a hospital. A lot of times, depending on how you work, like say if you're a contractor and you write your own price, you're gonna make a lot more money at a private place with a doctor paying you than you would at like a hospital usually. But yeah, that's pretty much it. How can a sonographer go into pediatrics? You would just have to get in there and learn some different things about peds.
So I think the best way to get into pediatrics, honestly, is to make yourself more marketable to babies, because essentially pediatrics are just smaller adults. So there's not much there that you really need to know. But if you make yourself more marketable to babies, like doing fetal echo, nuchal translucency, high-risk pregnancies, that makes you more marketable to pediatrics as a whole. And I think that's a great way to get into pediatric sonography, is to make sure that you can do everything from babies up to adolescence, up to adulthood. Like, make sure you're able to do everything.
What is the worst patient experience you have had that gets you upset thinking about it? That's a good question. So I have so many stories, but this one was recent. So I had a patient, it was in the morning time and I was about to leave, and I was gonna go upstairs and do a venous leg, bilateral legs, so both legs, looking for a blood clot on this patient. So I walk in, the patient is a little bit on the bigger side, like not huge, but like just a little bit on the bigger side, and they're sitting in a chair. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna need you to get back to the bed so we can do this exam really quickly. And the patient starts telling me how they can't get up out of the chair and all this different stuff. And like, I understand you're in pain and stuff like that, but then the patient start apologizing to me up the wall, like, I'm so sorry they sent you up here and they just ain't right, aren't they? Like, she was trying to be on my side. It was hilarious. And she's like, they just ain't right, they should have let you know that I don't get up well and all this stuff. And I'm like, girl, could we get up in this bed, because I want to go home. So I was like trying to get her to get in the bed, and like finally I was like, you know what, forget it. So I did her bilateral legs in that chair. I was like, could you just put the chair back a little bit, and like we gonna work this out, because you know it's 7:40. What was it, 6:45? Yeah, I wanted to go home. So I was like, okay. So I did the legs in the chair, and she just keeps apologizing to me up the wall. I was like, okay, cool. Next time I come back, I send for a patient, not realizing it is the same patient. And I sent for the patient, and they brought her down in a wheelchair. What? So they bring this lady down in a wheelchair who can't get out of her own chair to get into the bed in the first place. Like, why wouldn't you bring her in a bed? I was like, are you for real? Because I know it took them 10 years to get her from that chair to the wheelchair. I was like, this made absolutely no sense. So she gets in the room and she starts apologizing to all of us up the wall again. And as, I'm so sorry, they did it again. I'm like, what in the world is this? Like, this is not even real. So I'm having everyone help me pick her up out of the chair, and she's holding on to me so tight. I told her that she might break my wrist. I mean, it was an ordeal. It took us about 10-15 minutes to get her in the chair. And I was just like, are you for real? Like, this can't be happening. Like, first of all, she don't want to get out of the chair to get in the bed for the exam, so I have to do the exam in the chair. And then I know for sure it was hard to get her out of that chair to get in the wheelchair. And you guys opt to bring her in a wheelchair instead of just rolling her bed down with her. You're gonna take her out of her bed or wherever she was at and put her in a wheelchair to bring her to us. It made absolutely no sense. I was a little mad for the rest of the day, because I was like, for real? So then for the rest of the day, I start writing a note to transport. I was like, bring patient down in wheelchair unless it's hard for you to move patient, then just bring them in bed. Because you know, you figure like, why should I have to tell you that? You should already know. We also get a lot of like super inappropriate jokes made about the transvaginal probe, but yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys asked some amazing questions, things that I would have never thought to ask. So thank you so much for participating. Make sure to check out my community tab, because I'll be asking a lot more questions and polls and things like that that you guys can participate in for my upcoming videos. And I will see you guys next time. Like, rate, comment, and subscribe, guys. Bye.